This video is brought to you by Nebula. It's no secret that the French state is in a bit of a crisis right now. A collapsed government, a deadlocked parliament, a soon-to-be fourth Prime Minister of the year, a lame duck president, and a budgetary crisis have put France's political system, the Fifth Republic, and its institutions under a significant amount of strain. In fact, some would argue that the existing political setup, established back in 1958, is incompatible with the current political reality. So in this video, we're going to explain France's political system, its strengths and flaws, why some people want to scrap it and build a Sixth Republic, and whether it will actually happen. Before we start, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing and ringing the bell to stay in the loop and be notified when we release new videos. To understand how and why the French Fifth Republic came about, we need to have a look at what came before it. Its predecessor, the Fourth Republic, was established in 1946 in the wake of the Second World War and provided France with a parliamentary system. Without going into too much detail, the Fourth Republic was basically characterized by instability and immobility. In its 12-year lifespan, the Fourth Republic saw 24 successive governments, as stable majority coalitions in the powerful legislature proved elusive, and the country lurched from crisis to crisis. This instability created the conditions for the Fourth Republic's collapse, which was ultimately triggered by the 1958 Algerian crisis, during the country's war of independence from France. Amid the turmoil, General Charles de Gaulle returned from the political wilderness to found a new republic, France's fifth, and oversaw the creation of a new constitution that was designed to correct the flaws of the previous one. What resulted was a semi-presidential system, one famously dubbed by Maurice Duverger as a republican monarchy, in which the president, despite existing alongside a prime minister and parliament, exercises a considerable amount of power. The president, who has been directly elected by the public since 1965, commands the military, has significant influence over foreign policy and national security, and while it's the prime minister that technically runs things domestically day to day, it's the president who can appoint and dismiss the prime minister and cabinet, as well as dissolve the National Assembly and call early elections. The Constitution of the Fifth Republic also contains other provisions designed to prevent or avoid some of the instability of the previous republic. Most notably is Article 49.3, which gives the government the ability to force the passage of a law through Parliament without a vote, with lawmakers only able to prevent this by toppling the government through a no-confidence vote, a rarely used nuclear option that successfully ousted Prime Minister Michel Barnier earlier this month. Now, the Fifth Republic's relative longevity, at 66 years, suggests that the system has worked as intended. It's been tested, though, particularly in the 1980s, 90s, and early 2000s, when legislative elections delivered parliamentary majorities for opposition parties, effectively forcing the president to appoint a prime minister from the opposite camp, in what's known as cohabitation. While cohabitation did create a degree of awkwardness, it still worked pretty well, as the president was basically relegated to a more secondary role, while power effectively lay with the Prime Minister and National Assembly. Nevertheless, amendments to the Constitution were made that, for a while at least, reduced the chance of cohabitation and helped ensure the president's party enjoyed a parliamentary majority. For example, in 2000, the presidential term was reduced from 7 to 5 years, lining up legislative elections so that they would be held shortly after presidential elections. Things are not running smoothly anymore, though. Emmanuel Macron, who smashed the two-party system upon his election in 2017, enjoyed a parliamentary majority in his first term, but lost it in 2022, and in this year's snap election was relegated to second place in a National Assembly that's well and truly split three ways between a left, centre and right bloc, with strong anti-establishment parties on either end. A parliamentary arithmetic that looks virtually impossible to form a stable government with. There's no clear way out of this mess either. Fresh legislative elections cannot be held until summer, and even then, those elections may just produce a similar outcome, reinforcing that France now has a three-party or three-bloc system. So, does this mean that it's time for the Fifth Republic to come to a close and be replaced with a Sixth Republic that's better equipped to deal with this new political reality? If the formation of the Fifth Republic was a response to the crises of the Fourth, then the same logic could be used that the crises of the Fifth necessitates a Sixth. Interestingly, calls for a Sixth Republic are nothing new. In In fact, calls have been coming, mostly from the French left, for some time now. Leftist leader Jean-Luc Mélenchon has been a long-time advocate and pledged to create a Sixth Republic during his previous presidential campaigns, as did Socialist Party candidates Benoît Hamon and Ségolène Royal during their respective runs in 2017 and 2007. The left, especially in recent years, has focused its fire on what it sees as the undemocratic nature of the current constitution. For example, the president's significant powers and things like Article 49.3 used heavily under Macron. So what could a Sixth Republic actually look like? Well, if, say, Jean-Luc Mélenchon had his way, it would have a stronger parliament, weaker president, and greater power for citizens to initiate legislation and referendums. However, reverting to something closer to a parliamentary system wouldn't necessarily solve the problems at hand. For example, a parliamentary system could still be gridlocked by a three-way divided National Assembly. In fact, that's sort of what France had ended up with already: a weak president, strong parliament, and political gridlock. What would really be needed, either now in the Fifth or in a potential Sixth Republic, are more inclusive mechanisms of coalition building and inter-party dialogue to break impasses, though this is not an easy fix for a system that's historically been structured around presidential dominance. Alternatively, another vision of the Sixth Republic could see France shift the opposite direction by embracing full presidentialism a la the United States, though given current attitudes to presidential powers in France, this seems unlikely, and presidentialism, of course, has its own pitfalls. But irrespective of what a Sixth Republic might look like, what are the chances it will actually come about? Well, in the near to mid-future, the prospect looks virtually non-existent. Macron simply doesn't have the political capital to lead such an effort, nor does it appear like he wants to, and the level of polarisation in France makes it hard to imagine a broad political consensus being reached on a new constitution. Now, that's not to say that France's political system is fixed in stone forever, though. The constitution of the Fifth Republic has been amended 25 times over the years. So specific targeted amendments, for example to alter the voting system, seem like a much more plausible route to securing change than a wholesale rewrite of the constitution. As you've probably noticed, the news cycle is particularly fast right now, with coups, elections and governmental gossip happening all over the world. In fact, with Trump heading into the White House, that chaos is only likely to get worse. If you're feeling a little lost and even a little depressed, then you might want to check out our series WTF USA, where we explain everything that's happened across the pond in the land of the free. Because while the election might be over, the number of WTF moments only looks likely to increase. Unlike some of our other more serious videos, the tone of WTF USA is more light-hearted and takes something of an irreverent look at what's going on. Regular viewers will be pleased to hear that the series has been extended due to overwhelmingly popular demand over on Nebula.
If these trends continue, hey!
Now, if you didn't know, Nebula is an independent creator-owned streaming platform that specialises in thoughtful content. Over there you can find creators like Wendover Productions, Real Life Law and Legal Eagle, with many of them releasing their very own original series on the platform. We're super proud of WTF USA, and we hope that with your support, we'll be able to make other interesting, weird and entertaining series with Nebula in the future. So signing up genuinely helps TLDR to grow and expand. You can also watch every normal TLDR video on Nebula ad-free, and in some instances before they land on YouTube. If you're not a member already, then click our link in the description to get 40% off. That's just $30 a year or $2.50 a month. We really hope you check out the series, and as always, thanks for your support.